In most countries that I know of, any criminal organization that attacks the state, any element of the state, they're not treated as mere criminals. They're treated as terrorists. So I am a little bit at a loss as to why in Jamaica, these genocidal gangs that attack police stations, take the lives of police officers, and wreak havoc on the society, and most importantly on the lives of innocent citizens, are treated as mere criminals. Maybe it's that we're a very caring, loving society. Are we? I know we have more churches than we per square miles than any other country in the world thus far. But I also know that we have more rum bars than probably any other country in the world also. So my question is, why is our country lagging behind in putting the framework in place? Framework meaning laws that govern these anti-Jamaican entities that has names like Stone Crusher, Clansman, Genocide, One Order. Why are these gangs allowed to commit these atrocious acts against the state and against innocent citizens? And we don't have legislation in place to treat them as terrorists. I really would like to know why. Recently, over the last couple of years, the government has put in place new legislation, over the prompting of, many of us who have been arguing that the laws that we had are archaic, old, useless, insufficient. In some cases, they literally encourage people to break the law. And there are so many laws on the book that are no longer of any use. And you look at the penalties. So if a person is supposed to, let's just say, there's supposed to be no fishing in a particular area, and someone goes there and fish. I'm just making a case here. But the fine is $10 Jamaican. Judge can't charge anything more than that, can't fine anything more than that. How does that prevent any person from going fishing when they could catch fish worth hundreds, thousands of dollars, and if caught, and the rare occasion that that person will be caught, they'd pay $10? Makes absolutely no sense. Laws that allow people to take over people's property and live on the property and own it after a certain amount of years. Those laws makes no sense. And so those laws need to be revisited. But let's jump forward to the criminal statutes. The gangs operating on Jamaican soil, they are not just criminal gangs, sure, but they commit criminal acts. But we're talking about the severity of the acts that they commit. And by all means, when you look at every tenet of the acts they commit, they fit neatly under the definition for terrorism. Since that's the case, why is there no law that stipulates that certain acts are not mere criminal acts, but acts that are terroristic in nature, and as such must be dealt with differently and separately, not necessarily by the police, but by having the military go in and deal with it in the way that it should be dealt with? There are many, many countries that have situations like we have in Jamaica. You look at a country like Nigeria, for example. They have Boko Haram. Boko Haram, the Nigerian government doesn't send police to go after Boko Haram. They send the military. In Mexico, They don't just send police to go after the narco terrorists. No, they send the military to deal with them. And so you gotta remove these people from under habeas corpus. You gotta deal with them as a, not just as a criminal entity, but as a threat to national security. That is how you treat with these people. So it is high time for the law-abiding citizens in Jamaica, in our country, to acquaint themselves with the stark reality that we can't just continue to see these issues as law enforcement issues, but as serious national security issues that must be dealt with by our national military. It is full time, but it needs legislation. And we know that when it comes to dealing with strong legislation, you're gonna get a whole lot of complaints from the criminal rights groups. You're gonna get a whole lot of pushback from the opposition PMP. You're gonna get a whole lot of pushback from the churches. You're gonna get a lot of pushback from civic groups. You're gonna get a lot of pushback even from private sector groups. But the government cannot allow these interest groups to prevent it from doing what's right. And what is right is to treat these criminals the way they deserve to be treated, the way they deserve to be characterized, categorized, and dealt with. It is past time for us to stop treating these gangs the way we're treating them, bringing them before the court, bring gang members before the court, and allowing them to have every right that ordinary, regular criminals have, and to be put back on the streets where they go out and take the lives of witnesses against them. And so what happens is that people in the communities clam up, they don't say anything, and it creates a cascading snowballing effect that, you know, it gets larger and larger. Their crimes, the gravity and the depravity of the crimes that they commit gets worse and worse and worse, because now the immunity that we give them by shielding them as no ordinary criminals create even more impunity in them. So we have to put a stop to that. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not just a person who believes in the hammer. I believe we need to be able to, once we're doing that, we need for the people in government now to go out and seek to bring data centers, factories, and for the nation to embark on training these young men, many of whom see no hope for themselves. And we can't just discard them. We can't. We have to find ways to make them feel a part of the society, to make them feel like they have a part and towards success and a part in our country's development. Everybody want to feel useful. But as long as we continue to have more girls' schools than boys' schools, as long as we continue to have a Bureau of Women Affairs and nothing to deal with men, to look after the interests of men, as long as we continue to do these things and to pay attention to the education of girls, the young guys are only going to find power in guns. We have to change that paradigm. That has to be addressed holistically. So yes, I want a really huge hammer on the criminals, but at the same time, we need some restorative justice, if you will, so that these young people, young men in particular, can see crime and terrorism as less and less a way to be seen, to be noticed, and to be empowered. I'll talk to you on the next one.